Hello and welcome. This is Anglais the Easy Way, and my name's Richard Watson. Today, I'd like to talk about the most difficult part of learning English. You can talk to your friends, and you can try and figure out what you consider the most difficult thing about learning English. Some would say it's grammar, some would say it's vocabulary, or pronunciation, articulation, intonation. Some would say no, it's phrasal verbs. Personally, based on my teaching experience, I would say the biggest challenge I see among all my students is finding the time to actually do some English. We all have things we want to do in our life. People are married, people have kids, we have jobs, hobbies, and English is often pushed to the bottom of the list. People are full of great intentions. They plan to do the English. They want to learn English, but week after week, they end up coming to class saying they didn't really do much. I've got a student called Benjamin, hi Benjamin, who recently explained to me that he wants to do more exercise. And he's decided that he'll do 10 minutes a day. Now, he does a lot more than 10 minutes a day. Sometimes he goes for an hour run just before our classes, so I know he does. But he explained to me that he fixes 10 minutes a day so that he cannot possibly excuse himself if he doesn't do it. He said, there's no way I can justify not finding 10 minutes to do exercise each day. That's the kind of base you can set up for your English. What's the minimum that you need to do each day in order to keep progressing in English? Ask yourself the question, when did you last think of doing 10 minutes of English? It sounds laughable. What can you possibly learn in 10 minutes? If we change subjects slightly, you could say the same about learning the guitar or learning the piano. Can you learn that 10 minutes a day? I contest that you can, but in order to do that, you have to have a very clear idea what you're working on. You can't just go and find a grammar book that could take 10 minutes for some people on its own, sit down and try to work on the present perfect or the past simple and think that you're going to keep progressing. You need to have clear objectives. And you need to have clear objectives that are challenging for you. If you find yourself doing simple things, you're not actually learning. You're not actually progressing. Now, I don't know if this is a term that only exists for the guitar. I've heard it used about the guitar. I've never heard it used about another instrument. There's a verb in English called to noodle. Noodling is when you take up your guitar and you start playing, but basically you're just playing things you kind of know. You're not learning new things. You're not challenging yourself. You're not even really playing anything. You're just making noise on your guitar. Good noise. Other people might think it's great. You know you're not learning. You're just playing around. That's noodling. So how do you avoid noodling when it comes to learning English? How do you manage to actually do something that leads you somewhere? Well, first you have to have objectives. You have to know what you're working on. And I think you need to have activities that you can try to do in 5 or 10 minutes. Everybody can find 5 or 10 minutes a day to actually work on something. Here's a test for you. If you are learning something, could be a language, could be an instrument, could be a sport or an activity, could be learning Python or Ruby for coding and developing. What are you actually working on? Could you say exactly what you're learning, what you're working on, what you're trying to improve? That's kind of the acid test. If you can't say what you're doing, maybe you're not actually doing anything. So what kind of things am I talking about? Well, pick a tense that you know you're having trouble with and force yourself to use it for 5 minutes each day. Write some sentences, or even easier, just say some sentences. Having trouble with the future? Talk about the future. Say a sentence, think about it, did it work? And then think, did I say it the way I want? Was it smooth? Even in 5 minutes, you can practice something quite intense, especially if you do the same thing for several days in a row. Could be grammar, could be vocabulary, could be intonation, could be anything about English. English lends itself to being broken down into smaller pieces and worked on in 5 or 10 minute segments. Don't think the opposite. Again, ask yourself the question, what am I working on if you say you're learning English? Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.